Part 88. The feeling of helplessness and uselessness was beyond words. Loving is alert everything. As Bai Xuelan said, it's really fun. Not only are the dishes on the table more delicious, the wine in the new cup is more mellow, and even the little song sung by the beauty is also my first favorite. Bai Xuelan drank the wine, listened to the wonderful song, glanced at the broken glass window that bloomed like a flower, and was full of jealousy, and held the angular, unimportant and troublesome stone in his hand. Delicious. It's too beautiful to know the heavens and the earth. Surrounded by beauties on the seat, the eyes are full of bright purples and reds, and the eyes are full of spring colors. Only that person, although not in front of him, seems to be in front of him. Bai Xuelan drank cup by cup. Logically, this second round of dinner should not be held. In theory, he should catch up immediately, find the perpetrator who escaped, and end this undesired Cold War. But Bai Xuelan didn't do that. He almost deliberately endured it. Like a flower that has been waiting for thousands of years to finally bloom, he endured not to pick it immediately, and deliberately left it to hang as if torturing himself, fermenting the gratifying sweetness and making it even more unforgettable. He, Bai Xuelan, had suffered from jealousy. Now, only Happy, who was finally jealous of his lover, scratched his itch. Yep. Just let that person be jealous for one more moment. Just let that person suffer for one more moment. When Xuan Huaifeng etched his love and hate, sweet and sour, into his heart, he would never forget it. Bai Xuelan rushed over and hugged him. Hold him, hold him, hold him. Don't let go again. Chief, have another drink. Drink. Bai Xuelan drank very boldly and happily. He used the broken glass window to drink, and the stone that was worthless but smashed into the small flower hall. Use, the young man who loves too deeply in his heart. The elegant back who fled quickly to drink. These drinks are really wonderful. The feeling of being drunk and looking forward to it is really wonderful. So, in the small flower hall, the pipa is endless, the charming songs are lingering, and the wine is poured. Someone sang, the autumn moon is cool and the wind is blowing. The sky is high and the stars are bright. Bai Xuelan raised his glass, feeling relieved, and said, the dragonhead lax wine invites the wine stars. Drink 3 glasses in a row. Someone sang, happy with you, get the golden beasts, the silver candles turn into ashes. Bai Xuelan raised his glass and said succinctly, 36,000 days in 100 years. 300 cups must be poured in one day. Still drinking 3 times in a row of cups. After the countless 3 cups, even Bai Xuelan's mass seems to be gradually insufficient. After Lu Farong sang, Zhaofeng clear dew drops on the silver bed. Bai Xuelan answered in a loud voice, it's okay to be awake at this time, and it's okay to get drunk. I'm done. I won't accompany you anymore. He immediately stood up and walked out of the small flower hall. Stride downstairs. The rest of the women looked at each other in dismay, and felt that this big man was handsome, free and easy, and talented, but his temper was a little weird. It was very dark by now. Xuan Huaifeng smashed the window and fled back to the small courtyard. After taking a bath, he went to bed with a belly full of thoughts. He also tossed and turned for most of the night, never falling asleep. When this month is full of fancy, more drums and cripples, I finally get a little sleepy. He turned over and was about to fall asleep when he suddenly heard someone outside the house slamming the locked door. He was so shocked that he immediately sat up and asked loudly, who? The person outside didn't answer, just bang knock on the door. In fact, you can even guess. In the heavily guarded white mansion, at this hour, with such a domineering way of knocking on the door, who else is there except Bai Xuelan's hooligan? Xuan Huaifeng's habit was not coming, and he shouted loudly, go away. I've locked the door. As if he hadn't heard anything, there was still a loud knock on the door. Xuan Huaifeng ignored him, rolled over and lay down, putting a pillow over his head, thinking, even if you knock until dawn, I won't open anyway. It was just a banging knock on the door, which still came into my ears, as if it was going to last forever. And the noise made Xuan Huaifeng no longer sleepy. He endured it for 5 or 6 minutes, and finally lost the pillow. Just as he sat up again, the annoying knocking on the door stopped. Gone? Xuan Huaifeng was in a daze when a black shadow suddenly flashed by the window facing the bed, hit the ground, and suddenly jumped into a person. He jumped very fast, but his footsteps seemed unsteady. When he landed, he swayed his palm to the pear blossom coffee table beside him, and swept a few small ornaments and small cups to the ground, and suddenly there was a bang. Xuan Huaifeng was shocked and angry, and said, Bai Xuelan, what are you doing? The tall figure staggered to the bed and sat down. A burst of alcohol came, and Xuan Huaifeng was almost drunk. Bai Xuelan stretched out his arms to embrace it. Where could Xuan Huaifeng let him touch him? He opened his hand with a slap, and said angrily, drinking and having fun with those women. If you're drunk, do you still have the face? Bai Xuelan smiled, burped, and said inarticulately, at such a time, it's okay to be awake, and it's okay to be drunk. Xuan Huaifeng said, whether you are really drunk or falsely awake, leave it to me. Do you really think I am easy to bully? And half an hour later, the more pleasant it is to watch. I don't, bully you, Who do I bully? Completely drunk. Xuan Huaifeng's handsome face tensed, and he said, you made up your mind to play drunk and crazy, didn't you? Bai Xuelan laughed, suddenly opened his arms and rushed towards Xuan Huaifeng. Xuan Huaifeng quickly stepped back, and Bai Xuelan threw himself in the air and fell on the mattress. It just doesn't move. Xuan Huaifeng just thought he was playing tricks, jumped out of bed, and stood beside him with arms crossed vigilantly. After waiting for a long time, Bai Xuelan still did not move at all. He gradually let go of his guard, leaned over to take a look, and patted Bai Xuelan with his hand. Still no movement. Xuan Huaifeng called out twice, Bai Xuelan? Bai Xuelan? Bai Xuelan was still lying still. Xuan Huaifeng turned him over and saw that he was already in a deep sleep. This made Xuan Huaifeng startled, unable to get angry, unable to laugh. Staring at Bai Xuelan, who was drunk and sleeping comfortably for a while before sighing in frustration. I don't know how much I drank, so drunk. This man has resorted to such a despicable and natural move. A person, no matter how much reason, no matter how much dissatisfaction, no matter how much protest, can only hold back alive against an out-and-out drunken cat. Xuan Huaifeng cursed in the bottom of his heart, decided to leave the man behind and find another spare room to sleep. Just as he was about to leave, he saw Bai Xuelan lying on the bed most of the time, with his feet hanging in the air, and wearing 2 leather shoes. Xuan Huaifeng helped him take off his shoes and threw them on the ground. Just as he was about to leave, he didn't expect that when he was about to leave. He took another look and inadvertently saw that the white satin robe on Bai Xuelan's body was wrinkled, and the buttons around his neck were still tightly buttoned. Sleeping like this? I don't know if he will strangle his neck and make his breathing difficult? Xuan Huaifeng hesitated for a moment, then leaned down and gently helped him unbutton the neck. As soon as his hand touched Bai Xuelan's neck, Bai Xuelan turned his head and hummed vaguely. His neck was wet and he seemed to be sweating profusely. If you sleep like this, won't you be sick tomorrow? Xuan Huaifeng was stunned for a moment. The feeling of helplessness and uselessness was beyond words. He sighed again. He had to go to the bathroom to get a basin of hot water, twisted a hot towel, and wiped Bai Xuelan's face and body. Bai Xuelan looks slender when wearing clothes, but in fact, his skeleton is large and heavy. The drunk person is the heaviest, and it took Xuan Huaifeng a lot of effort to lift his half to wipe his back. Silently cooking this domineering and unreasonable drunk cat, Xuan Huaifeng himself was exhausted. At this time, there is no energy to go out and find another spare room, toss the towel into the wash basin. Simply fall on the other side of the bed, close my eyes and fall asleep. Anyone who drinks knows that. People who are usually not drunk after 1,000 cups, once they are really drunk, the consequences are very serious. Bai Xuelan's drunkenness is no trivial matter. Not only did he knock on the door, jump at the window, and talk nonsense, he forgot all about it. But he also fell on the bed and slept until noon. The next day, after 11 o'clock, he slowly opened his eyes and had a splitting headache. Taking a closer look, he found that he was actually sleeping in a bedroom that he had not been in for several days. He had already changed his clothes, his leather shoes were on the ground, and someone had taken off his socks. A wash basin filled with water was placed beside the bed, and a towel was soaked in the basin. There was a puddle of debris on the ground, like something shattered. In addition to being surprised, Bai Xuelan was quite happy, but he didn't know where Xuan Huaifeng had gone, so he quickly endured the headache and rang the bell to find someone to ask. The servant said, "Adjutant Xuan left early in the morning." Bai Xuelan asked, "Where is he going?" The servant shook his head, "I don't know, Adjutant Xuan didn't say anything. But Captain Song went with him. They were still in the Lincoln car. If you ask anything else, the servant doesn't even know." Bai Xuelan guessed that Xuan Huaifeng didn't know if he had gone to work or not, so he made a phone call to the General Administration of Customs. The person who answered the phone looked around and came back and reported, "I didn't see Adjutant Xuan. Neither did my colleagues say he'll see you today." Bai Xuelan suddenly felt uneasy. He really drank too much yesterday, and he didn't remember what happened last night, let alone the rare service that Xuan Huaifeng had to him in 1,000 years. Was very worried. Was it because he was so popular that he ran away from home? However, Xuan Huaifeng took Song Ren with him, and Song Ren would never let him do stupid things. Bai Xuelan couldn't find Xuan Huaifeng for a while, and there was nothing he could do. He absently called someone to set lunch, and the housekeeper happened to come over and report a few things about the mansion to Bai Xuelan. After Bai Xuelan gave instructions, the housekeeper casually brought up another trivial matter and said, "Yesterday, Song Ren ran behind and beat Xiao Li." Bai Xuelan understood the reason and laughed, "I beat him all the time. Now, what else can I do? Song Ren is just such a gunnery temper, I don't think Xiao Li dares to ask Song Ren for this justice." The housekeeper said, "However, Xiao Li seems to be a little aggrieved. It is his responsibility to report to the chief. How do you know that he will be beaten because of these two sentences?" The housekeeper went and called Xiao Li over. Bai Xuelan glanced at it, and it turned out that his nose was blue and his face was swollen. Thinking that he was also being honest with himself, he really said a few words of comfort and told the housekeeper to go to the account room to get 50 yuan as medical expenses. Xiao Li originally complained that he was unlucky, but now that he has been praised by the chief himself and has money to take it, his swollen face suddenly smiled a little, and he repeatedly bowed to Bai Xuelan and said, "Thank you, chief." Bai Xuelan suddenly remembered something, and he asked, "Don't you drive a Lincoln car? Why didn't you follow him out today?" Xiao Li said, "I got punched a few times, and now I can't see things so easily, so I don't dare to drive lightly. I want to hit the car if it breaks down or hits someone, I can't bear the responsibility. So I have a discussion with Yu Sheng and let him drive the Lincoln car today. There are several cars in the White Mansion, and of course there's more than one driver for Xiaoli. Yu Sheng is also a very safe driver. Bai Xuelan asked again. Adjutant Xuan went out early this morning. Do you know where he went? Xiaoli shook his head and said, I haven't seen Adjutant Xuan today. It's just that when I came back from Nian's house yesterday, Adjutant Xuan asked me if I knew the road to the Huaifeng restaurant. Bai Xuelan sank slightly and asked, Is it the one on the other side of Fengshan? Xiaoli, seeing that he was paying attention, he felt he was being taken seriously, and said happily, Of course, there's only that one Huaifeng restaurant. Chief, you know, I am familiar with all the high-end restaurants in and outside the city. The family won't go. Bai Xuelan didn't have the heart to listen to his boasting, and cut off his words and asked, He doesn't go to so many restaurants in the city. So what is he doing outside the city? Xiaoli said, I don't know. It's probably someone who is the host. Bai Xuelan asked, Who? His heart suddenly trembled, as if he had committed a crime if he couldn't answer a decent answer. Xiaoli was frightened by the pride just now, and shook his head honestly, expressing that he didn't know. Bai Xuelan asked again. He was at Nian's house yesterday. Did he meet anyone? Think about it carefully. The chief explained that he had to be careful. Naturally, Xiaoli did not dare to be careful. So he turned his head and racked his brains. After thinking about it, he snapped his fingers and said, Really, there's no one there. When Adjutant Xuan entered the door, I kept sitting in the car. The car was parked at the gate of Nian's house. If outsiders came in, I would definitely be able to see it. The adjutant helped Mrs. Nian out, and said that I occupied the door. And Nian's car could not come, so he asked me to reverse the car a little bit. Mrs. Nian got in the car and left, and then the adjutant Xuan went in again. Bai Xuelan, hearing the problem, he asked, Mrs. Nian has gone out, what is he doing in there? Why doesn't he come back in the car immediately? Xiaoli said, It looks like his brother-in-law, Director Nian, is at home. Bai Xuelan's eyes widened. He stood up abruptly, causing Xiaoli to take a step back in fright. Prepare the car and call the guards. Bai Xuelan said in a deep voice, I'm going to the Huaifeng restaurant.